You're watching the CV Church Sunday Message, a place to belong, believe, and become. Thanks for joining us.
So just to give you guys a little heads up of what we're doing for the team, Thursday we leave on a 7-day cruise. We are visiting several islands. No, just kidding. We are leaving very early Thursday morning for 12 days. We're going to be in Belize. We're doing different VBSs, doing different youth outreach programs. We're going to be working with a couple of the youth ministries in Belize, as well as doing a youth summer camp for some of the kids that would maybe never have anything like that or be able to afford anything like that. Different people from our team and the group that we're meeting up with are going to be running different dramas, speaking at some of the youth conferences and different things like that. It's just going to be a really busy time, but it's going to be a great time. And so what I would ask is we have the names of each person from our church that we are sending. And what I would ask for you guys, for those that are interested in doing that, is to bring out your cell phones and take a photo of that slide. And then throughout the week, be committed to praying by name over each person on the team. Because the truth is that you guys are sending us out, but your impact still has such an amazing effect on our team through the prayers that you guys give while we are over there. And so you guys might not realize how important your prayers are, but your prayers are super important to every person on this team. Day 1, 2, and 3 are going to be awesome. We're going to be like hitting the ground running. But come day 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, that's when you're really going to need to keep us in prayer because, I mean, you know, my wife puts up with me for 12 days, and even sometimes she's like, so they're going to have to put up with me for 12 days. I am really excited. I get to speak with you guys. I thank Pastor Scott for this opportunity. He is away on vacation, and he has a lot of trust in me because he's having me speak to you guys again. Either that or he never watched the first video. Before I get started, the first service we had one of our newest youth who just moved up from Kids Place pray. And so now I'm going to ask one of our teens that have been around for quite a while, Caleb, to come on up and pray over the message.
Dear Jesus, thank you for this beautiful day and thank you for all your creation. Thank you that we can send a few teens over to help be a light to the broken world that we have. Please help Josh's ministry help show a light in all of our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, so for those of you guys that don't know me, I am Joshua Williams. I'm the Director of Youth Ministries here at CV Church. And as I said before, last time I spoke, I work with teenagers. So if I ask for a response, you guys can raise your hand. You guys can, please don't jump up and down. But you guys can give me a response. I actually have an opportunity later for one lucky person to be a volunteer, which could be a good thing. Or if you've seen any of the games that we played with the youth ministry, it can be a really bad and scary thing. So interaction is great. If you are not awake yet, please wake up. And who here has ever been paintballing? Okay. Who here likes paintballing? Okay, less hands that time, but that's okay. For all of you adults that raise your hand, the youth ministry is going paintballing in September, so that's a little plug for some volunteers, huh? All right, but if you guys don't know a whole lot about me, one thing that you will realize over time is I can be a little bit competitive. I like to, especially when it comes to our teenagers, I like to rile up the teenagers. I do a little bit of trash talking. I don't like cuss or whatever, but I get them into it. I will make fun of them to their face just to get them involved in the name of Jesus. But I like to rile up kids, and so about a year or two ago, I went with a group of teens paintballing, and there was this girl, Gabriella. She was a younger girl. It was her first time paintballing, and so I figured I would show her the love of Christ by talking trash to her. And so, it started with like something small, like, hey, see this paintball, Gabriella? I'm going to nail it right to your head. See, it has your name on it, okay? I am going to be all over this field, and you are going to hate playing this game because every time you turn, I'm going to be there with the marker. And so that was, showing the love of Jesus to her in that way. And it worked because she got like so into the game. The first match we had, she was on my team, and the minute they said go, me and her booked up the field. And we were on fire. We were covering each other, yelling out commands that no one really knows. Come on, you've yelled out commands during paintball or laser tag or something like that, and you really get into it. And so we're running up the field, going back and forth, covering each other. We tore apart the other team, and the rest of our group was still behind. And I was like, yeah, way to go, Gabriella. And she's like, next time, can I be on someone else's team? I was, okay, why do you want to do that? I mean, we're pretty good. And she goes, well, I just want the opportunity to shoot you. So she threw the gauntlet down, and I was like, well, you can, but it's really going to be hard hitting this because I'm like a blur. I will beat you down. So she went on the other team, and the next game, we were playing attack and defend, and there was this 2-story structure, and I was on the top with a couple of our other teens, and they were, the enemy was coming. We were shooting it up. They were yelling for me. I was like back and forth across the wall. I was into it. I was doing so great. I was in the zone. And it kind of makes you feel important when they keep on calling you for help. And so, Josh, help. Yeah, I got that. No problem. Josh, help. I'm like a superhero. Hey, Josh, Superman. And so running back and forth. And then I'm hiding behind. They were getting closer. The fire was a little bit more heavier. And one of the teams from the other side says, there's this kid, Killian, who used to be like a professional paintballer, and they're like, he's on the left side. And so I just leaned out, and bam, across the face mask, right on the eye, a yellow paintball. So I throw my hands up, and I wipe it down, and I look, and there's Gabriella across the field laughing. Okay, I was lucky shot. And so the next game, same thing, rush down the field. I'm doing awesome. I'm taking out people. I took out 7 people that round. I was really good. And if you know me, I'm not coordinated whatsoever. So I'm running, and we get behind cover, and I keep on looking around, peeking up, firing, and there was one person in a bunker, and it was bugging the snot out of me because they just, those people, they just cowered there, and then they like fire over, and so I'm like, I'm going to take them out, and every time I'm looking, no one around, boom, right in the mouth guard, okay? If you've ever been paintballing, that is not one of the places you want to be hit, because your reaction when you get hit there is, and then everything just goes into your mouth. Paintballs taste disgusting. Do not try to eat one, okay? Again, I look up and I'm like, where did that even come from? And she's like, hey. That started a chain of events. Every round, she shot me somehow, somewhere, coming up out of the shadows, and it was like one of those things, like the last round, I'm rushing forward, and I'm almost to where their flag is, and I'm like, I got this, and I stand up, and like 4 shots into my back, and I turn around, I'm like, Gabriella, we're on the same team! She just made my day awful, and she admitted after, she's like, no, I just wanted you. I just wanted to kill you. That's the kind of effect I have on teenagers. Thank you. Who here has had a bad day? Okay. For me, that was kind of a bad day, but that's like the joking bad day. Like, it was awful. I got a couple of bruises. But who here has had like a really bad day? What about even further back? Who here has had a bad week, month, year, or it has been bad for a while and you don't know when it's going to stop? We get hit all the time with bad stuff. Everything's fine, and then we get blindsided with accidents, death, cancer, bills, heartache, and the list just goes on and on. I wish I could stand up here and tell you guys, hey, I have all the answers. But the truth is, I don't. Like, how's that for a message? Okay, who wants to come to Jesus? Okay. No matter how hard we try, we can't stop bad things from happening. And in the end, we're felt like we're holding the ashes of our life, which should have been beautiful. Have you guys ever been there where it's just everything is so rough and you're just like, I don't know what to do? Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, for the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of the Lord's favor has come, and with it, the day of God's anger against their enemies. To all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, festive praise instead of despair. In their righteousness, they will be like great oaks that the Lord has planted for his own glory. I had a surreal experience yesterday when we woke up and we went outside and like he said, there were the ashes like were covering the deck. I'm not used to like big fires like that. Apparently this is the season. Florida has hurricane season. Apparently California has fire season. And I don't know how many structures were destroyed, or I was reading stories about how there was like a wildlife refuge that they were trying to get animals out of, like 400 plus animals they were loading up into trailers and different things like that. But the truth is that once this fire is done, there are going to be people that return to their homes and everything they had was ashes. I don't know about you guys, but if I can't avoid something bad from happening, the least thing I want to know is that my bad things can be turned around for something good. So today I want to talk to you guys about how God can raise up your life from ashes and make something from it. If you turn to 2 Corinthians 12, Paul is talking here and he says, "This boasting will do no good, but I must go on. I will reluctantly tell about visions and revelations from the Lord. I was caught up to the third heaven 14 years ago. Whether I was in my body or out of my body, I don't know. Only God knows. Yes, only God knows whether I was in my body or outside my body. But I do know that I was caught up to paradise and heard things so astounding that they cannot be expressed in words, things no human is allowed to tell. That experience is worth boasting about, but I'm not going to do it. I'll boast only about my weaknesses. If I wanted to boast, I would be no fool in doing so, because I would be telling the truth, but I won't do it, because I don't want anyone to give me credit beyond what they can see in my life or hear in my message. Even though I've received such wonderful revelation from God, so to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. Each time he said, 'My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness.' So now I'm glad to boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That is why I take pleasure in my weakness and in the insults and hardships, persecution and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong." So here's Paul, the guy that wrote like over half of the New Testament. If there was like ever a super Christian, it was Paul. And he talks first about how he's given these great visions and great revelations, but he can't tell you. How many of you guys are awful with surprises? All of you guys, come on. Who here cannot? Okay, if I were to tell you, Scott, that I have a surprise for you, but you got to wait 3 weeks, how would you feel? No, okay. I am the same way. I actually, growing up, I was really bad. Every Christmas, I knew where my parents' gift hiding spot was. And they would change it out, and I would find it again. Wait till they go to the store, go to the closet, go to the bed. If it wasn't there, I would look in different cupboards and different things. I would always find where my gifts were hidden. One year, it was so bad, we went to my grandmother's house, and her hiding spot was always the same. It was always in the closet, off to the right-hand side. She didn't even try to cover it up. In her head, I was a perfect angel, and that wasn't true. But so I remember going to her house. It was about 2 hours before we opened the gifts, and I was looking under the tree, and I saw a box that I hadn't discovered in the closet, and it bugged me. I was going to open it in 2 hours, and I was like, no, I need to know what's in it. So I waited till they were all getting dinner ready in the kitchen behind the wall where I was, and I went over there, and without causing any tears whatsoever, I peeled off the tape on the side, pulled out the box, okay, that's what it is, and closed it up. And then, being the master person that I am, I cut pieces of tape that were just a tiny bit longer than the tape that I peeled off, just so it would stick enough and they couldn't tell that it was a whole nother piece of tape. It was a science, okay? I'm pretty much an expert. So, I don't like surprises. If you tell me you have a surprise for me and I have to wait, that is not going to work. I will think about it. I will stress about it. I will go over in my head. Well, what could it be? I think I saw them at this store. I think this is what's going on. Okay, so when Paul's like, hey, I saw these amazing things, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. What? But going on, he says, because I saw these amazing things, I was given a thorn. Given a thorn in my flesh. And if you look at what any of the scholars say, they don't really know what it is. Some people say he had a leg issue. Other people said he had bad eyesight. Maybe he was being verbally attacked. But the point is, it was a thorn that was big enough, deep enough, and it hurt enough that he cried out to God a bunch of times. Super Christian Paul crying out to God. How many of you guys have ever been there? God, I need your help. I cannot do this on my own. You cry out because you see no other hope. And here is Super Christian Paul going through it. For those of you guys that don't know me or know my story a whole lot, I was born with a skin disorder. It's called epidermolysis bullosa simplex. You guys got that? It's going to be tested on later. All right. EBS for short. And the basic layman terms is this. I don't have enough connective tissue and stuff between the layers of my skin. So heat, friction, stress, or just for the heck of it, my skin will break out with blisters. Most of the time, hands and feet are the worst. The only way you can get it is to be born with it. So when I was born, I was just in constant pain. I was covered in blisters. And who here is the oldest child? Okay, how many of your parents, or if you're a parent and you have an oldest child, how many of you guys freaked out, or your parents freaked out because you were the first, like you were the experiment baby? Okay, there was a whole lot of stuff that happened to me that didn't happen to the rest of the brothers. They're like, this didn't go over good. You know, Josh is too scarred from it. We're not going to do this with Joel. So not only the nervousness of having their firstborn, but I couldn't even feed. Anytime I fed, my lips would break out with blisters. I was in constant pain. My body, everything, like they were saying, diapers and everything like that were just causing my body to break out and to react. So as a little baby, all I would do is spend most of my time screaming and crying because I was in pain. If you didn't take care of the blisters properly, which most of the time meant like lancing and draining it, they could get infected. Sometimes no matter what they did, it would still get infected. At 2 years old, I had spent a lot of my life in a hospital. There was one point where I almost died because of a really bad staph infection. To make matters worse, my pediatrician, and this is way before internet and stuff, but my pediatrician, I was the first case that he ever dealt with this skin thing. So half of it was experimental. Okay, we're going to try this. I remember one time I got this one medicine, and the doctor's like, no, this is going to be fine. And I ended up breaking out blisters like even worse, almost closed up my throat. It was really, really bad. And so I remember, kind of like Paul, there were moments growing up. You know, I grew up in a church, and so I was told how God would heal and everything like that. I was told if you had enough faith, God would heal you. And so I remember as a little kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, going up to the altar going, God, please just heal me. I hate the pain. I hate being different. Please just heal me. Paul cries out to God. And what is God's response? My grace is made perfect in your weakness. I'm going to ask it again. How many of you guys have ever been there where you just were at the point where you just cried out to God and said, I need you. Nothing else is working. I am by myself. I need help. Maybe it's from something that you chose to get yourself into. Maybe it was a mistake you made or whatever, and you find yourself in a situation where you can't get out, but it was kind of your own fault. Or maybe it was something that you had no control over. Something was done to you. And you feel like you just cannot get out of this situation. And in the end, we feel like we're holding on to the ashes that we've collected from this world. I mean, it flies in the face of what a lot of Christians will say. If you smile and you pray, Jesus will give you a car. That's not the truth. If I could tell you one thing, though, for those of you that are walking around with the baggage and the ashes and the trash that this world has given you, if I could tell you one thing, it is this, that God is the great recycler, and he doesn't waste an opportunity. So maybe that's you and you're going through a situation right now, or maybe you've been through situations. There are 3 things that I want to talk to you guys about briefly that can cause you to rise from the ashes of your tough situation. And, in fashionable style, they all begin with the letter L. All right. The first one is this. Our ashes teach us to lean on God's strength. Even the toughest of us have hard times. I don't know about you guys, but how many of you guys have someone, when you go through a tough time, you want to go to that friend, that mentor, that person that you can just lean on? Like, maybe literally lean on, or just like, listen, I need to just bounce some stuff off of you. I just need to vent a little bit. We all have those people that we need to go to for help. I remember talking with my youth pastor that I grew up with, and now he's a pastor up in Massachusetts, Rhode Island. And I remember talking to him one time, and he said, you know, being a pastor, and especially a youth pastor, is one of the most physically and emotionally draining jobs you can have. I had a youth kid maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and he had a rough upbringing. He had a rough family. And at 16 years old, this kid was just a heavy-duty alcoholic. It's a small town in Florida. And I remember I was doing all that I could to reach out to this kid and all that I could do to try to show him Christ's love and to try to see his life transformed, to try to tell him that his life had a purpose. And it seemed like every step forward I took with him was 2 steps back. And then I remember one time, early in the morning, I got the phone call. And they were telling me that basically he had been out all night drinking and him and some of his friends were racing. And he wrapped his truck around a cement telephone pole. They called me to let me know, you probably want to get down right away. They're asking for a pastor because the truth is he probably won't live past the next couple of hours. And so I remember getting there, and you have the straight face on and everything like that, and you go there, and there were some of the youth kids that were drinking with him, and they were asking me all these questions, and I went in there, and it's a scary sight when you see someone that you poured so much time and effort into, and you just want to see them and their life turned around, and you see all these tubes. He was in a coma, blood all in the tubes, breathing heavy, and there was nothing that the doctors could do. They told me that his ribs were just shattered into pieces. And I remember, getting there, and we prayed for him, and we talked to the family and everything like that, and I left, and I was just broken. I was like, this is so tough to watch. And I remember just being like, Melissa, I just need to relax. I just need you to, I can be a sensitive guy. I just need a hug. Because it's rough. We have those people a lot of times that we lean on for strength. We lean on for help. And while that's awesome to lean on other people, there is something supernatural about leaning on the one who created all things. Paul writes towards the end of Corinthians 12, and he says, each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in your weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weakness so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in the insults, hardships, persecution, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Paul is basically saying, I find that I'm at my strongest when I'm leaning on God. Because it's not my strength at all. It's his. We can do so much on our own. We're strong people. How many of you guys, you can admit you're strong? Maybe not, physically, but maybe mentally. Some of you guys. Okay. Good responses. We think that we're strong. But the truth is we all have our limits. No matter how young I think I am not. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a youth barbecue, and we were playing this game at CV Park called Humans vs. Zombies, and it involved everyone running over the park with Nerf guns and zombies chasing you down, and it was a lot of fun. And we picked Henry Alvarez, Jordan Nelson, and their friend Jaden to be the zombies. And at the very beginning, I was warned, hey, we're all fast. And so everyone says that, okay? I say that, and I'm not. And so I was like, okay. And so I was like, we got like 20 other kids that they're going to be chasing down, and it'll be fine. But for some reason, they like to pick on the youth guy. And so we start the game, and next thing you know, I'm cornered by all 3 of them. And so in my head, I am faster than them. I don't care how much physical exercise they have over me. I am faster than them. And so I booked, and I ran away as fast as I could, and they started catching up. And so I continued to run faster and faster and faster and faster until I felt like I was going to fall over. Like my legs were jello, but I still kept on running. Something inside said, Josh, you're an idiot. Just stop. It's a game. But then the other side of me was like, no, they need to know their place. And so I ran as fast as I could, and between my speed and the Nerf guns, I survived 5 minutes. And then they tagged me. But I survived 5 minutes. The next morning, I get up, rolled out of bed to get ready, and fell flat on my face. Why? Because my legs are like, nope, you are not a little kid anymore. My legs did not decide to work, even though my head said, hey, I'm young, I can do this. My body was like, no, dude, you're like 60. The point is that even though in my head I was limitless, I have limits. We have limits to how much we can hold. But there is something about God, the God that is limitless, and putting your weight on him and leaning on him and having him carry you through. So when you're going through those times that are difficult with the doctor's reports, when you're going through those times that are devastating or physically or mentally just draining on you, it reminds us we have limits, but God is limitless. And that's why it's important for us to lean on the limitless one. Some of you guys even now are going through situations that are tough and you see no way out and you have no idea what you're going to do. And what God is saying is God is standing there saying, listen, I can help you through this. I have the strength to carry you, but you need to give it to me. Second point, our ashes can lead others to salvation. Most of you guys are probably familiar with the story of Joseph. I mean, grew up, didn't have a good relationship with his brothers. How many of you guys didn't have a good relationship with your brother? Oh, you just fought a lot. It doesn't mean you had a bad relationship. Okay. And like all good brothers, his brothers decided, hey, we're going to kill him. And so they backed out of that. They threw him into a pit. And then after that, they decided to sell him as a slave. And so Joseph's life is pretty rough. And then he gets sold to Potiphar, and things look up for him. Things are going good. He's given a lot of favor with Potiphar. And then Potiphar's wife accuses Joseph of something. And for young ears, we're not going to mention what it was, but it was bad. Joseph did the good thing. He took the path of integrity, and he ran from the temptation, and yet he was still thrown in prison because of lies. Things look up a little bit in prison. He has two high officials get thrown into prison. He interprets their dreams. One's a really bad dream. The other one's really good. And he says, hey, listen, when you go back to the king, remember me. And the guy's like, don't worry, I got you. And then he leaves prison and forgets about him. Joseph's life is rough. Almost killed, sold as a slave, accused of awful things, sitting in prison. It is pretty bad. And then Pharaoh's given a dream. Joseph interprets it and ends up saving Egypt from the drought that came. Really, really good things. But then his brothers come because they need food. And they have no idea that when they come before him, they're kneeling before their brother that they almost killed. The brother that they created his life to spiral out of control. And what is Joseph's response in Genesis 50 when his brothers come before him? They get fearful. What if he's going to kill us? And Joseph says, you intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. Here, Joseph is talking about salvation in a literal tense. But God can use your tough situations to bring others to salvation. I'll never forget when my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago. Growing up, when I was really, really young, there's home movies of me and my grandfather running around playing. You know how little kids have like weird names for grandparents? Apparently I called him Gumpy. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. But there's a video of me like, Gumpy, Gumpy, Gumpy. And he's like, oh, Gumpy, Gumpy, Gumpy. It was nice and cute. Then around 5 years old, depression hit him really bad. Not because I was 5. But depression hit him really bad. And for the next part of my life, I only remember my grandfather was good for a week, and then for months he was out of it and angry and depressed and just laying on the couch. So I didn't really have a close relationship with my grandfather. Then several years back, he got injured. Went into the hospital, and he wasn't going to make it. And I remember during that time, my dad reached out to my grandfather. And it was the craziest thing because in that small amount of time, he had a deeper relationship with my grandfather than he had ever had before. And then the doctors said, listen, the infection is going to kill him, and we have what can save him, but his body's too weak to handle it. So in the end, the medicine kills him or the infection kills him. There's no way out of this. And so my dad got people from the church, and they kept on visiting my grandfather and witnessing to him and just trying to show him who Christ was. And an amazing thing happened. He right before he passed away, he was led to Christ. He became a Christian. And it was a really awesome thing. And I remember my dad talking about how even in the last moments, my grandfather was in a lot of pain. He couldn't talk, but there were just those moments where he would look over at my dad and just hold out his hand, and he just wanted my dad to hold his hand. And then I got the awful call from my grandmother. My grandmother, who was always away from Christ, who didn't want anything to know about Christ. I remember my first mission trip when I told her that I was going overseas, she thought it was the biggest waste of money, and now I've been like 12 times, and she just thinks, wow, you threw it all away. When I told her I wanted to go in the ministry, she's like, you are a fool. My grandmother was completely turned off from Christ. You couldn't even bring her up around her. She hated to come to church events, even if like my mom was like, oh, Josh is singing a solo. No, don't want to come. She hated church. And yet, my grandfather died, and I was one of the first people she called. And, you know, again, I can be sensitive, and so she's on the phone crying, and we were doing a karaoke thing where Melissa was helping run karaoke at a bowling alley, and so I'm outside of the bowling alley, you know, like, no, it's okay. And, you know, I look like a real man there, but it's okay. And I remember talking to my grandmother, And in that one moment, she was more open to Christ than she has ever been for the rest of her life. God can use the tough situations to bring others to salvation. My grandfather got saved. My grandmother got witnessed to and actually had an understanding of who Christ was because of tough situations. There are some people that you have been praying for that they would get saved for the longest time. And God is saying they will get saved, but it's going to take your tough situation to lead them to salvation. Point 3, our ashes can lift others through their tough situation. I talked earlier about my skin disorder and how I was born with it and how I dealt with it. And I remember the first time I went overseas, it was El Salvador. My feet were awful. Halfway through the trip, I had blisters all over my feet. I could barely walk, and our bus broke down. And we had to walk a mile to get to the next bus. And I remember, despite the pain and everything like that, the worst part to me, because I'm a young teenage boy, was I actually had to have some of my friends give me a piggyback ride because I could not physically walk that mile. I mean, if you think pain is bad, just the sheer embarrassment of that was awful. And I came back from the trip, and I was upset. I was like, God, I just don't understand. And someone showed me 2 Corinthians 12. Over time, God worked on my heart and on the fact that even though I was weak in Christ, I was strong. And an amazing thing happened, and that is, over the years, God has allowed me opportunities to share with people, with teenagers, with adults, with kids, both here in the States and abroad, about Christ's love. And it doesn't matter language barriers, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or whether you're poor, whether it's different social structures or whatever, because there's one language that everyone understands, and that is the language of pain. And when you can identify with someone else's pain or show that you have been through it too, that speaks volumes. God has used this thing that I was born with, this pain that I've struggled with over the years, and he has used it to touch and help others through their pains. Years ago, I made a promise to God when I came to the altar, and I said, if you can heal me of this skin disorder, I promise I will turn around and I will give it to you. God healed my heart, and I've still been able to turn around and give it back to God. Use my ashes, or what this world sees as my trash, and use it to bring others closer to God, to help them through their situations. There may be people here that God is putting people in your life, or he has put people in your life that are dealing with the same circumstances, the same situations that you guys are. When we aren't looking and focused on our circumstances, and instead we lean on and trust God, he connects us with those people. So that those that are going through those struggling times, those tough times, God puts us in their path so that we can say, listen, God got me through, and I'm going to help you walk through this as well. I need a volunteer. Wow. Okay, come on up, Roman. All right, I'm going to show you guys a quick little object lesson. We're going to do it on the mission trip to Belize, but I'm also going to do it here because it proves my point. Now, just to let you guys know, this is a little magic trick that my youth pastor taught me long, long ago. I haven't done it in a while, but that is okay. It is a little kid's object lesson. So if you're sitting there going, I know how he did it, congratulations, you figured out a little kid's magic trick, okay? Roman, I have for you, I'm going to fold it back up. I have for you tissue paper. I have tissue paper. And on the count of 3, we are going to unwrap it together. Are you ready? I mean, not unwrap it. Rip it up. Okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Dude, you ripped it down. I said up.
This one came up.
Oh, okay, whatever. All right. Rip it up, rip it up, rip it up, rip it up. Okay. Don't throw it all to the ground. Okay, thank you. Roman made sure that they were very, very small. All right. See, a lot of times in our life, we're given or we felt like we've been dealt these ripped up pieces of our life. There's not a whole lot I can do with ripped up piece of paper. I mean, in the end, you could give it to someone as a gift, but you're just cruel. But God does the same thing with our life. There are so many times, and maybe some of you guys have sat there and you said, I feel like my life is like that. I have just been torn apart by this world. And this amazing thing happens. When we give God those ripped up pieces, when we give him those broken up pieces, God does this amazing thing. Oh, this is going to look lovely on you. There you go. Aww. Give Roman a hand. Thank you. All right. It's a very little kid object lesson. Some of you guys are like, I figured it out. Congratulations. Good job. But the point is this. Too many times in our life, we've been like that. My life is so torn apart, ripped up, a mess, that nothing good can come from it. And God is saying, give me those pieces. Because I can recycle them and I can make them into something beautiful. In the end, God does not waste a single opportunity. So maybe you've been given a bad report by the doctor. Maybe you've had the most difficult time you've had in a long time. Maybe your spouse has walked out on you. Maybe situations are just so rough and you don't know how you're going to make it. God does not waste a single opportunity, and he's saying, just give it to me. So maybe through your situation, God is saying, lean on me. I have the strength you need. I will strengthen you, but you need to lean on me. Or maybe he's saying, if you give me this situation, those people you've been praying for, those people you want to see saved, I will save them through your situation. You just need to give it to me. Or maybe God is saying there are Christians or future Christians out there, and they need to hear your story. They need to know the tears that you have shed and the situations you have gone through, because it will be what they need to bring them closer to me. In the end, God is the great recycler, and he doesn't waste an opportunity or a situation. My challenge to you guys is this. As I close, I'm going to read that section of Scripture, that last section of Scripture, and I want you guys to close your eyes. And everyone is a lot of times good at wearing masks, and we can have the smile on our face, but inside our life is torn apart. Or maybe you came in here and everything is just torn apart. This is my challenge to you. God is here today and he's asking, I will give you strength. I will help you through this. We will use it to see other people saved. But it all requires you to hand over your situations to him. So as I read this scripture, close your eyes, and if you are holding on to anything like that, give it over to Christ. 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away, and each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in insults and hardships, persecution and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
Thanks for watching the message. You can find more information at cvchurch.com.